No. Let's call the April 5th, 2021 meeting of the Dalton City Council to order. Mr. Wall will lead us in the pledge. To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The agenda is before y'all. Are there any additions, deletions, corrections? Motion by Ms. Harlan, is there a second? Second by Mr. Goodlett. All in favor say aye. All opposed, like sign. Next on the public commentary, but I think Margaret's going to speak. You're not the public, Margaret, but
Mayor, thank you, Council. I've put a lot of papers at your places. Sorry to inundate you today. But what I've given you is our March events that the Convention and Visitors Bureau worked with. It's the economic impact that those we saw, actual numbers. You know, we do projected numbers, but these are actuals. And then I also included the events that are coming up for the month of April. Behind that, or with that rather, is a list of upcoming events at the Dalton Convention Center. And then Michelle's Kitchen, this is what's on menu for this week. Deadline to order by tomorrow, pick up on Thursday. And I've also included Georgia Great Places, which the Tunnel Hill Heritage Museum Tunnel and Clisby Austin Home is advertised in that piece. So I just wanted to bring y'all into the loop on some of what we've got going on, marketing and then events wise within our community. One of the new pieces is this QR code that we have worked with Parks and Recreation, both city and county, to put up at our concession stands. And what this is a touchless QR code for all of our restaurants within our community to help guide some of our players, old and young, to various restaurants throughout our community. So just trying to bring you in the loop on some of the things we're trying to do in regard to our visitors when they do come into our community. Any questions?
one thing I'll say about this Michelle's Kitchen, we've discovered that it's a great price for dinner for two, because my wife doesn't cook. I mean, she literally does not cook. So we've had someplace to eat on Thursday nights now, and it is good.
Well, wonderful. Thank you for your support. Thanks.
Next is the minutes are before you from the last March 15th meeting. Any corrections, additions, deletions? If not, I'll entertain a motion. We approve them. Motion by Ms. Harlan, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Wall. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. New business number 2, supplemental bond resolution for issuance of 2021 revenue bonds through Dalton Building Authority not to exceed $21 million.
Mr. Mayor, preceding this meeting was a meeting, as you're well aware, of the Building Authority, which similar to the resolution before you, the supplemental bond resolution, more precisely fashions the bond issue originally the Building Authority you approved an intergovernmental contract to issue up to $21 million for projects, including some bond refunding from a 2015 private revenue bond. Substantial savings in that. The bonds have been placed. We have a very competitive market. I think Mr. Gephardt may have a presentation for you. Subsequent to that, and after questions, bond counsel has asked that these details be approved by the mayor and council on consideration tonight, and then I'll get signatures, Mr. Mayor, from you and the clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Again, my name is Doug Gebhardt with Davenport & Company, the city's financial advisor, and I'm with my colleague Ricardo Cornejo here this evening. In front of you, you should have a brief presentation that I want to walk you through, sort of the summary and the culmination of a lot of months of hard work that resulted in a fantastic bond sale this morning. So if you would, please flip to page 1. As you well know, when we go to sell bonds in the public credit markets, you need to go get a credit rating. And so we talked to the rating agency of Moody's, and as part of the credit review, they affirmed the city's rating of AA2, which is right in the middle of that very strong tier, just 2 notches off, the highest possible rating that can be awarded to anybody. So a very strong investment grade rating. So something that the city should be very proud of receiving. The next page just highlights a few of the observations that Moody's cited in the report. They said that it was a strong financial position characterized by healthy fund balancing and cash positions. So they noted that there was limited debt outstanding, that you had improved unemployment levels. They did note that there was some concentration in the flooring industry, but however, after conversations and proof that the flooring industry is not going away and that the city understands how to operate, and that there was no impacts from the pandemic in that industry in particular, that the city would be able to mitigate and work through any concerns in relation to that. So overall, very strong report that we received back from Moody's. So the next page, just to give you a sense of where interest rates are today. So we are at or near historic lows. The yield curve that we use to measure tax exempt interest rates is the AAA MMD, or municipal market data, which gathers all the trades in a certain day and publishes a yield curve. And so what you can see on the left-hand side of the page is the 20-year AAA rates over the last roughly 2 decades, so since 2000. And you can see that, it's gone from as north as 6% down to nearly, just north of 1%. And the right-hand side of the page is a more zoomed in picture of that yield curve chart since the November 20, when President Trump got elected. And you can see rates have started to trickle down. There was a little bit of disruption as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, mostly related to liquidity issues. But overall, since then, rates have sort of bounced around a little bit, but basically at or near literally the all-time lows. So it's a great time for the city to consider going to market. So what we did is put together an offering document called a preliminary official statement and a notice of sale. And what you can see on page 4 of the presentation is the competitive bid results. So in the notice of sale, it's laid out the parameters in which particular underwriters had the ability to sharpen their pencil and purchase the city's bonds. Anything north of 3 is considered competitive from like IRS perspective and legal purposes. Generally speaking, we like to see around 5 to 7. We got 11 bids back. Wow, that is remarkable. Our underwriting desk today said that Dalton was the largest deal on the competitive calendar. So of all the bonds that are being sold, you guys were the biggest deal. So all eyes were on Dalton this morning. So with that being said, at 11:30, we got bids back, and FHN Financial Capital Markets provided the lowest true interest cost of 1.68%. That's for 20 years, 1.68%, pretty remarkable. The cover bid was at a 1.72, and the last place bid 1.84. So the differential there is roughly 0.16%. So that's why we thought a competitive market would be the best way to go, because we were able to access that sharpened pencil as they see today. So once you factor in all the closing costs, all the fees, the interest rate the city will be paying is a 1.82%. The next page just shows the final pricing results, the coupons and yields on the bonds. We are in a premium bond environment, which you can see is reflected there on the right, furthest right column, which is the price. So investors in today's market are willing to pay more than 100 cents on the dollar. And so the city only has to issue 18.36 million to fund just north of $20 million worth of either paying off bonds or funding new projects. So the next page, as you know, there's really 2 elements. One was to refinance existing debt, and the other was to pay off or to pay for new projects. And so As part of the Series 2010 Recovery Zone bonds, we looked at that, and the savings are just north of $340,000 over the life of the loan. So we're able to lower the average interest rate on that. The percent savings was 10%. The industry standard to proceed forward with a refinancing is 3%. So we're over 3 times sort of the industry standard recommended level. So overall, a great time to go refinance some existing debt. The next page shows the new money portion of the debt service. So right there, we did what's called a wrap structure, which will make more sense on the next page. But while the old bonds are being paid, there's a little slightly less new money debt service, but then jumps up to that 1.19 million. And then the last page shows the final aggregate debt service. So once you combine the refinancing portion and the new money portion, the total debt service that will be paid over the next 20 years is 1.19 million a year, less than our planning rate. The 1.82 is the interest rate we were planning for something just north of 2%. So rates came back better. Overall, I think we were very pleased with the results of the sale this morning. The building authority approved their supplemental bond resolution tonight, and tonight we asked the mayor and city council to consider approval of the city's supplemental resolution, which will ratify the results in the final coupons and yields that you see before you today, and authorizing formally entering the contract with the billing order for the service of the debt. With that, I'll stop and answer any questions and just say thank you for the opportunity to work with you all as your financial advisor, and congratulations on the great results.
Any questions for Doug? I'll entertain a motion. Motion by Ms. Harlan, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Wall. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. Number 3, ordinance 21-05, the request of Joel Banda to rezone from heavy manufacturing to rural residential attractive land totaling 0.23 acres located at 303 Goodwill Drive in Dalton. Who's that? Oh, there you are.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The rezoning here is one of those situations that we come across quite frequently that is almost classically a result of the city's former pyramid style zoning ordinance, where the manufacturing and commercial zone districts permitted at a point in time all types of residential. So we can see here what are now today non-conforming single family dwellings were at one point in time conforming under the zoning ordinance, but the current zoning ordinance is such that manufacturing uses and commercial uses must be in their own zones, and residential in the same sense. So in this case, the petitioner was requesting to rezone the property for another issue that we see time and time again that is almost essentially directly related to this situation, and that is that individuals interested in obtaining a mortgage to purchase a residential property cannot do so unless that property is zoned for residential purposes. In other words, if you have a house and it's zoned commercial or manufacturing, even in the zone district that we specifically created to allow both residential and commercial, like over on Thornton Avenue, where you have an office residential opportunity, the mortgage lenders will not honor that. So in other words, it has to be zoned to be a conforming use. And the only or the best fitting zone district in this from the staff recommendation was R5, because in order to allow this dwelling to become a conforming use, it will have to be converted either into one connected structure or a duplex structure. Right now, it's 2 separate single-family dwellings that are separated by probably no more than 8 feet, maybe less than that, between wall to wall of the exterior of the homes. So some work will have to be done there after the fact as well. But that would, in the R5 zone district, make that a conforming use on the property. And that would be reflective of some of the adjacent property from lot density standpoint and from the multifamily standpoint that we see directly across the street on Goodwill Drive. And that is in agreement with the comprehensive plans, suburban development pattern that is projected for this area and preferred for this area. And again, this won't really change a lot about the way these houses look. It's more or less a zoning change and in order to create conformity on property that's essentially already developed. Staff recommendation was to approve. Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval, and there were no individuals there in opposition for this rezoning.
Any questions of Ethan? Is there a motion on this?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Wiles, there's a second. Second by Ms. Harlan. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Number 4, professional service agreement with One Priority Environmental Services LLC for asbestos abatement and other hazardous material removal for residential structures at 915 Brookwood Drive and 310 West Wall Street.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. On Tuesday, March 30th, last Tuesday, the city received proposals from 3 different asbestos abatement contractors certified to perform this work in the state of Georgia. This is anticipation of stormwater projects in the Prater Alley Basin, in addition to our Brookwood Drive flood storage project. The proposal receiving the highest score was also from the lowest proposer, One Priority Environmental Services LLC. The cost of the abatement is $16,200. The time to complete is 5 days after they submit their 10-day notification to the EPD, which was also one of the quickest contractors to perform the work. These proposals have not gone before the Public Works Committee just because this is a time-sensitive project, and our next meeting's not for a couple of weeks. But it was anticipated that we would bring this before the City Council before our next Public Works Committee meeting. The work will be charged against our 2015 SPLOST account for the project, so the budget's already there.
Questions of Andrew? Is there a motion on this?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Goodall, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Wall. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Andrew, what is this with, I think with Todd's person, we're trying to get them certified to do something with this asbestos. What is that?
That's correct. We're talking internally with city staff about getting a certification, somebody on staff certified to perform asbestos abatement with the state of Georgia. We've had this personnel on staff before. About 6 or 8 years ago. We just don't have anybody on staff now. We believe we can deliver these projects quicker if we have somebody on staff certified and at a much reduced cost in comparison to going out to the private sector. But that is just for the inspection only. We would still have to bring in a certified contractor to do the work.
Okay. Number 5, corrective action plan and permanent easement for drainage project near 2200 Rocky Face Circle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As everybody's aware, we received a lot of rain, intense rain in the last 2 weeks, just over 7 inches between 2 events. We had a very large sinkhole developed at 2200 Rocky Face Circle that we were made aware of on the morning of March 26th. It was approximately 50 feet wide and 20 feet deep, directly adjacent to the road. It undermined the city's drainage structure, and it was also undermining Dalton Utilities' 8-inch water main, which serves the bulk of Rocky Face Estate subdivision. I provided a detailed memo in the packet outlining what our review process has been and what our proposed solution is. Section 96-1 of the recently amended stormwater ordinance from the beginning of 2021 allows for a process for city intervention on off right-of-way locations under certain conditions. This condition does meet those requirements because it's directly connected to the city's stormwater infrastructure, in addition to the fact that it's conveying runoff from city right-of-way. That process requires 2 things. One, an approval of a corrective action plan from the city council. We've developed a corrective action plan that's provided in your packet. And number 2, an easement to be provided by the property owner. In this case, the property owner has provided a written agreement saying that they would enter into an easement condition with us. The city attorney's working on that as we speak for a permanent easement. We've already got a temporary work easement. We've assembled an expert team comprised of city staff and a private contractor to develop a solution for this issue. And I will note that a good portion of the estimated cost, $75,000 to $100,000, is just the materials to replace the failed pipe system downstream of the city right away. We're using this opportunity, however, to replace the storm drain under Rocky Face Circle that was owned and maintained by the city. It was not in good condition. It was a 72-inch corrugated metal pipe that's reached the end of its useful life, so we saw it fit to go ahead and replace that pipe as well as part of our project. That will save us an issue down the road because that pipe is in poor condition. So as I mentioned, we're going to be completing this corrective action plan in cooperation with Northwest Georgia Paving. They've helped us on some emergency repairs in the past, namely the Dugout Battle Road slope repair stabilization. And so much of this work in the right-of-way has already taken place. We just need the approval of the corrective action plan and the easement to move forward with the downstream portion moving toward the creek. I'll be glad to answer any questions. There's a location map in your packet, and I believe I've shared photos of the sinkhole in question.
Andrew, as I understand, this will provide some relief for that whole neighborhood.
Absolutely. This is a conveyance that carries approximately half of the drainage from Rocky Face Estate subdivision, in addition to a large drainage conveyance from the Mountain Ridge. We've had since Friday the 26th, half of this subdivision has been closed for access. They're having to access it from other ways. And so this is the perfect example, I think, of where the city can intervene, and it'll provide a long-term solution for a large number of residents.
I think this points out the extreme stormwater issues we've got in this community, that we've got to be about fixing some of these things or whatever. This obviously came out of somewhat nowhere, let's put it that way. We got plenty of that we know about, things like this. That's why it's so important we get ahead of this game instead of being constantly behind it all the time. Any other questions of Andrew? I do have one question, Andrew. How many Andrews are you? I was in a meeting, I heard your name come up 4 different times. I said, this is one person doing all this?
I appreciate that.
We appreciate
I've got a
what you're
good
doing.
team. I've got a good staff, and I appreciate the opportunity to work with our local partners to help us when we need help.
Your motion on this?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Cruz, is there a second? Second by Ms. Harlan. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. There being no other business before this body, do I hear a motion we adjourn? We adjourn.